Russia under fire. Explosions rock the heart of the empire. Ukraine's new weapons are rewriting the battlefield. Drones swarm, missiles roar, and Tomahawks are next. The Kremlin trembles as strikes hit deeper and harder than ever. The sky burns, the oil fields fall, and this is only the beginning. The Kremlin is screaming. The countdown has started. Russia's blackout is just the first wave. Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Maria Farafonova, and here are the latest news. No lights for Russia anytime soon. A mass drone attack has struck energy facilities in the Volgograd region.
As a result of falling UAV debris in the Novomykolaievskaya district, a fire broke out on the grounds of the Balashkovskaya power substation. Firefighting units are working promptly to extinguish it.
This substation handles transit power flows from Volzhskaya HPP to Russia's central region and supplies consumers in several adjacent regions. According to reports, those areas have been left without electricity. Things didn't go well for the oil refinery either. The previous night in Volgograd, drones attacked the facility, sparking a fire and triggering panic among Russians. Local residents themselves effectively confirmed online that the UAVs hit their target and struck the refinery. The governor, in his usual manner, claims the UAV attack was repelled. According to him, fallen drone debris in settlement of Kirova, Svetloyarsky district, damaged 4 private homes. Meanwhile, in Russia's Ufa, an unannounced drone raid, smoke is once again reported in the area of the oil refinery. Russian journalists wrote that an unidentified UAV likely attacked an industrial zone in Ufa, where Ufa Orgsynthes oil refinery owned by Bashneft is located.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Local residents report that smoke is visible near the Syrsky track, the road running through the industrial zone. There are also reports of mobile internet disruptions. Notably, Bashneft UNPZ is located roughly 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine's borders. This is already the 4th attack on Bashkortostan in the past months. Oil refineries will be the primary targets for the Tomahawks Ukraine is set to receive soon. Russia will feel the consequences the very next day. Flight instructor and retired Ukrainian Army Colonel Roman Svitan believes that if Ukraine gets Tomahawks, they should be used immediately against Russia's oil and gas industry, specifically refineries, because missiles can deliver far more powerful strikes against the enemy than drones.
Therefore, even a few dozen Tomahawks, if used correctly against Russia's oil and gas facilities, could ultimately have a positive impact on the front line. But this won't happen any sooner than in a few months, although the Russians would feel the economic hit as early as the very next day.
In addition to the Tomahawks themselves, our country needs the launch platforms to deploy them. According to the military expert, even a single such launcher vehicle would be enough to fire several dozen missiles in a single night.
This would instantly cripple the entire Russian oil and gas industry in the European part of Russia. It would be a severe blow to the economy, particularly the civilian sphere.
Meanwhile, the world is on edge. The Tomahawks are getting ready for launch. Trump's latest statement has shocked the Kremlin. Panic is spreading across Russia. Ukraine has already identified its targets and Washington has switched into turbo mode. The Tomahawks are heading for the Ukrainian armed forces. A historic moment is approaching. When will the first salvo sound? And what is Putin so terrified of? Explosive details coming up next.
I think I've already made a decision regarding Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine.
2 important phone calls in just one day between President Zelensky and former President Trump.
And of course, this truly gives us significant signals and a profound sense of hope that with the immense and sustained pressure that President Trump diligently applied in the Middle East for the pursuit of lasting peace, he will in a similar and equally determined manner likewise pressure President Putin to decisively stop the ongoing and devastating war in Ukraine. I sincerely hope for this positive outcome and have personally spoken about this critical matter with the esteemed President himself.
As a result, Trump threatened the Kremlin he would supply Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles.
You know, I can talk to him. I can say, look, if this war isn't ended, I'll send them Tomahawks. I can say that. Tomahawks are an incredible weapon, a very offensive weapon. And honestly, Russia doesn't need this. They don't need this. Yes, I can tell him that. If the war isn't settled, we can do this.
However, the US president did not specify whether an official decision has been approved regarding sending Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. So what could this mean? Is Trump just trying to intimidate Russia, or is he warning them?
This is happening primarily because today we learned that the United States is helping Ukraine choose targets for strikes. And this means that it's not just verbal coercion of Putin into peace negotiations, but these are already concrete actions. Therefore, I do not rule out at all that Trump can actually transfer Tomahawks. He's like that. He can actually do it.
Trump probably expects that the Kremlin will eventually decide to make some concessions. But will he wait?
The topic of Tomahawks causes us extreme concern. President Putin has already spoken about this. This weapon is special. It can be in a non-nuclear or a nuclear configuration. It has a long range, it's a serious weapon, but at the same time, it cannot change the situation on the front lines.
And while the topic of Tomahawks causes some concern in the Kremlin, Lukashenko has settled everything. Well, of course, these missiles won't be flying into his country.
I truly think that we really need to calm down significantly in this particular regard. I once said, perhaps even to you, that our good friend Donald possesses a certain very specific tactic for effectively handling the most pressing and urgent issues, first and foremost above all else.
Wow, they're even sucking up to Trump calling him a friend. So who is closer to the potato magnate? Still Putin or already friend Donald?
Lukashenko genuinely wants to regain a prominent position where he can confidently say, I am fully capable of doing this. I can effectively host important negotiations. I can engage in meaningful discussions with absolutely anyone. And I am such a truly great individual that I am indeed the primary negotiator. I can successfully bring them all together. I think that's what this is about.
But the question remains open. Will the Kremlin's rhetoric change after Trump's statements?
The Russian side continues to say that we are ready for a peaceful settlement, and we also hear that Trump still constantly talks about the need to sit down at the negotiating table. And from this we conclude that he still retains political will. But the Europeans, the Kiev regime, demonstrate an absolute unwillingness to do anything in this regard.
It couldn't have been any other way. Of course, the Kremlin will blame everyone around them except for their beloved selves.
One precise strike on Novo-Ogaryovo and everything will change. World politics will change. That's why I, like all of Ukraine, eagerly await these very Tomahawks.
And the Kremlin's main character, Medvedev, is generally threatening Trump, stating that the transfer of missiles could end badly for everyone, including the US president.
Putin's main task for Medvedev is to run around threatening everyone, so that if anything happens, he can say, he's just my deputy. So yes, he says, what do you want? Medvedev is consistently carrying out the specific tasks that President Putin himself set for him, and certainly not someone else. Therefore, yes, one must clearly understand that if he publicly states this, it absolutely aligns in its core message with precisely what Peskov also says.
Those Russian media outlets got so worried. It seems they're concerned. Well, of course, they have nowhere to hide, unlike Putin.
They don't even bother to hide it. They are more than just that. They have already marked specific objects on the map that can be precisely hit by these very powerful Tomahawks, you see. Look, objects of Russian military infrastructure within the range of Tomahawk cruise missiles in the Russian Federation.
Putin will decide everything. And what else did you forget? You have no analogs for air defense.
Our response is to strengthen the air defense system of the Russian Federation.
Also, besides Tomahawks, Trump stated that he had indeed ended the war in Gaza, which is confirmed by his presence in the Israeli parliament. Well, another conflict resolved, added to Trump's personal account. Maybe next year he'll get lucky with the Nobel Prize.
Explosive force has struck Russia. The Kremlin cried out at the unexpected shock. The front line is unfolding right in the heart of Russia. Ukrainian ballistic forces appear to have already established themselves on enemy soil. They swarm and strike with deadly precision. Flamingo units are preparing to cut off Crimea. Neptunes are primed. Putin was not ready for such a crushing defeat. A catastrophe looms like a black cloud over the enemy's strength. The defense forces continue to press the attack. What explosive surprise have they prepared for Russia? We'll tell you in a moment.
The consequences of the war unleashed by Russia are starting to return to its own territory in the form of Ukrainian drones and long-range missiles. The General Staff suggests that after Belgorod, Muscovites themselves might soon experience what a blackout is like.
On the left, there's complete darkness. On the left, there's the true Budyani darkness, an intersection. The metaphor doesn't work.
Meanwhile, two more Russian regions, Tyumen and Sverdlovsk oblasts, have introduced restrictions on gasoline sales, no more than 30 liters per person. Previously, this new regulation affected the Khabarovsk Krai, Chelyabinsk Oblast, and the occupied Crimea. All these lines and empty gas stations are due to daily attacks on oil refineries. Commander-in-Chief Syrsky stated that in September, under the Deep Strike program, there were reports of 70 hits on Russian territory.
We are destroying the production of fuel and lubricants, explosives, and other components of the Russian military-industrial complex in the aggressor country. In particular, oil refining in Russia has decreased by 21%, 9 sotkas.
The intensification and expansion of Ukraine's so-called long-range strikes on Russian territory became one of the main topics at the president's meeting with the security bloc.
Ukrainian long-range weaponry is becoming noticeably more advanced. We are constantly working on this. And we have already provided many different opportunities specifically for production, the necessary finances, all the required support. We need to significantly scale up the use as well. We have clear plans regarding this. Everything must be implemented in the coming months. Ukrainian precision is already visible, but there should be more. It is absolutely fair that Ukraine is striking back. Targeted strikes. And unlike Russia, we know what we want to achieve. Undoubtedly peace.
Currently, the carriers of strikes deep into Russian territory are the Flamingo and Neptune missiles. The company Firepoint announced the launch of production of the first ones at the end of the summer. At that time, a video of the Flamingo launch appeared online. In the fall, analysts suggested, however, that they might have been launched over the territory of occupied Crimea. The publication Welt stated that it was the Flamingo that destroyed the FSB base on the peninsula. 3 missiles left craters 15 meters in diameter.
He really very much truly wanted
to choose. At that time, German journalists also reported that 50 missiles roll off the assembly line every month, and there are plans to increase that to 200 per month. And now the Russians have allegedly shown the remains of a downed Flamingo missile. According to their data, it was hit on Russian territory by a Buk system at an altitude of 100 meters and a speed of 600 kilometers per hour. Judging by the serial number, the occupiers assume this is the 106th munition produced. In September, there is no reliable confirmation that the Flamingo destroyed the FSB base. Military analysts believe that behind these strikes, and not only these, could have been Neptune itself. Today, 3 of its modifications have already been tested and put into serial production in the Ukrainian defense industry. A 4th is in preparation.
Right now it's undergoing tests. This is the long-range Neptune, the one that can reach over 1,000 kilometers. It's currently being tested, and so far, let's say, the results have been positive. Testing continues, it is still undergoing tests, and at the same time, preparations for its serial production are underway. I truly believe that this particular series of Neptunes, first and foremost, makes the country quite capable and well-equipped. It reveals our combat potential because not every country in the world possesses cruise missiles, and moreover, these cruise missiles in the future will be both sea-based and land-based, and, let's say, of various ranges.
For obvious reasons, Ukrainian weapons manufacturers do not disclose much about strikes against the aggressor. But President Zelensky admitted to the press that the defense forces even will combine them. And analysts acknowledge that this is a successful practice, one that Ukrainians can adopt from their enemy.
This missile most likely could be produced in larger quantities, but as a result, it may also be cheaper than a high-tech missile like the Neptune missile. And here there are a whole range of combinations. Again, the Neptune missile being less detectable and more accurate can be used, so to speak, to clear a corridor, or, for example, the opposite approach can be taken. A series of Flamingo missiles, which are very noticeable and inexpensive, can be used as decoys to draw the enemy's air defense forces away, while at the same time the Neptune missile slips through. The less detectable missile will then strike more precisely and deliver a targeted blow.
The Ukrainian defense industry is no longer what it was at the start of the full-scale Russian aggression. The country's military and political leadership has finally realized that only local manufacturers can guarantee stable arms supplies to the front. Of course, this is only possible with proper funding. Thank you. But with each passing day, as more unknown drones terrorize EU skies, Europeans and Scandinavian countries are becoming increasingly interested not only in Ukraine's experience, but also in cooperating with Ukraine in the production of weapons that meet the realities of modern warfare.
What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video, and stay informed about the main headlines. More to come.